fearless job hunter. I was in a couple of unique predicaments where I needed to be creative to find employment. So the theme here for me for risk was what was I risking, and that was rejection. And we'll get to that as we go through it. So to start the story, I'm getting right to it because I know we're running late. It's November of 2002. I was a copywriter for a credit union in Boston. I was a copywriter by trade. When I went to college, I wanted to be a copywriter. Gonna be honest, it was not an exciting job. I didn't love it, but it was a job and it paid the bills, and I was down in Boston. I lived in Newburyport, about an hour north during that time. And in order to kind of scratch my creative itch, I put out a big goal. And what I did is I built a website, and this is like even before blogs. And it was called Wink and the Gun, and this was my goal. I'm going to write a weekly sports, humor, pop culture column. I'm going to treat it like 1 million people read this column every week. And when my wife would ask me why I'm up till 2 in the morning, because I had an important deadline for my column that like 30 people were reading, I would tell her, I'm like, do I have to tell you again what my goal is? My goal is I am going to turn this into being a columnist for ESPN.com. Get with it. That's what we're doing. So that's a pretty audacious goal, seeing that I never took a journalism class, ever. So I did this, and I built this site, and I treated it, and I busted my butt every week, and I had this vision that was like, out there, and I didn't know how I was going to approach ESPN, or I didn't know anything. But I'm going to get a job with ESPN as a columnist. So I'm a copywriter during the day. I'm writing a website that gets 32 people a week at night. And I'm driving home from the credit union one night, and I'm going up 95. I'm going to be honest, I was going closer to 85 than 65. And I'm in the far left lane on 95. And in front of me is a big contractor van, and 3 ladders on top. And I remember this for the first part I remember this is because I really wanted him to go faster, so I could get home quicker. So I'm focused on this van, like, come on, man, go right, go right. And then something happened. It was like slow-mo. 2 of the ladders fell off, and they were sliding backwards. And I'm going over 80 miles an hour, and I'm in a Volkswagen Golf hatchback. And I slammed on the brakes, and the ladders landed right in front of my car. And I almost died. I went over the ladders, and I spun out, and I came up in southbound traffic. And I'm okay, I'm here. But it was a pretty scary moment. And I'll remember, I was taking the tow truck and the police report. I'm going back home to Newburyport. My wife's there at our apartment. Had a few beers, shake it off. And I'm sitting there, and your life flashes before your eyes, that whole thing. But honestly, the thing I was thinking about was, I could have died and not have known if ESPN wanted me to be a columnist. And that's so ridiculous, but it's what I thought. That's what I was thinking. I'm like, they didn't know about me. So the next morning, I was hell-bent. I'm like, I could have died. I need to do this. I've been writing this column for about 10 months. I think it's awesome because that's what my dad tells me. And so I ordered online with Cafe Pressed. I ordered 100 Wink and the Gun t-shirts. And by the way, Wink and the Gun was a logo I came up with. It's like you wink and give the gun, like that kind of thing, right? So it had my face doing Wink and the Gun with the URL underneath, and it was real, a little pocket on the front and big on the back. Everyone, because I need 100 of them. So I got these t-shirts, and I had to wait about a week for them to come in. And during that week, I went crazy looking for who are the editors at ESPN.com? Who are the decision makers? Who do I need to get in front of? I emailed everybody. I got a couple emails back. Long story short, everybody said the same thing. You need to get with KJ, Kevin Jackson. He's the czar of ESPN.com. So I found out that KJ, where he worked in Bristol, Connecticut, and I had his email address, and I had his physical address. And as soon as those t-shirts came in, I took one t-shirt, and I put it in a manila envelope, and I put in a little index card on top of it. And this is the only thing I put in there. T-shirt, index card, and it said, KJ, I will give you the shirt off my back to write for ESPN. I sent a priority overnight because he needs it right away. And a couple days later, I got an email from Kevin Jackson at ESPN. I'm like, holy, I got to open up, what's it going to say? And I opened it up, and he said, got your package. Never quite been pitched like that. Didn't say if that was good or bad. And he said, I was able to make it to your website. He said, send me links to 5 of your best columns, what you think are your 5 best columns, and I'll read them. So I did. I gave him 5 columns. He wrote back that night. He said, not bad. He's like, I'm going to give you one shot. You get to write 1 column, submit it to me. If it's good, I'll run it, and you'll be a columnist, a freelance columnist for ESPN. And I need it tomorrow. So what did I do? So it's this section of ESPN.com, it's like sports humor, all this stuff I'd been doing on Winking the Gun. And I wrote the most absurd fictional piece, it was around Christmas time, and it was about superstar professional athletes going to a karaoke bar and singing songs and changing the lyrics. Like Larry Bird singing, I Will Survive, I don't even know the context. And I'm changing words, and I had this whole fantasy piece, which is exactly what you want to hang your entire career on. So I submitted it, I stayed up all night, I submitted it at 6 in the morning, and at 9 a.m. he wrote back and he said, it's on the website, welcome to the club, I need a headshot. And just like that, so I kind of ran into them, I woke up my wife, I'm like, yeah, told ya. So, now I have a great life. I got a job that pays the bills. I have the credit union going down into Boston. At night, I'm this big-time, in my own mind, ESPN.com columnist. And I got 99 T-shirts laying around in case anyone wants them. And it was awesome. So I spent the next 2 years. I had the same day job. I did the nighttime job. I was exhausted. I was constantly writing. But it was amazing. I had about 40 columns published on ESPN.com over that time. I was occasionally, if a column was really big, or if it got a lot of traffic, I'd be on ESPN Radio as a guest. They took some of my stuff for SportsCenter. I loved it. And then one day, I'm at the credit union in Boston. I'm sitting at my desk, and the phone rings, my cell phone. And I see the area code is 860. And I know that's Bristol, Connecticut. But I kind of think I'm a little nervous because nobody from ESPN had ever called me. So I went in the other room and I answered the phone, and it was my new editor, Michael. Michael had been the editor for about a month. KJ had been promoted. And KJ was also on the phone. So where do you think this is going? So Michael's on the phone, my new editor. KJ jumped in on the call. They had never called me before. And they quickly explained, hey, you're awesome, but Michael needs to make his own imprint here and bring in some of his own voices. So we're going to let you go. But you're really creative, and you're funny, and you're hardworking, and you're going to land on your feet. Thanks for everything, bye. And that was it. It was gone, just like that. I was devastated. I went home that night, and I just was trying to mentally rewire my brain. I was trying to brainwash myself that at least I have my day job. At least, it pays the bills. I had this amazing run. I did it. Check it off the list, move on. Next morning, I go back down to work at the credit union. I'm still trying to convince myself of this, idea and really buy into it. But I was thankful because I had a really hard deadline. We were launching the new website, and I needed to proof all the copy for it. As I'm in there, and we have this 5 o'clock close of business deadline, around 2 o'clock, the senior vice president of marketing, my boss, calls me into her office. I walk into her office, she closes the door. Sitting there is the senior vice president of human resources, and they laid me off. He said, we're having layoffs, and we're really sorry, but we're letting you go. And that was it. What I do remember at this point is I wanted to get the hell out of there. They said, you could stay till the end of the day, because I was in a cube with a bunch of other people in marketing. You could stay to the end of the day if you're too embarrassed or anything. I was just like, dunzo, I'm out. I didn't even go back to my desk. I didn't even take my things. I didn't even care if people if HR sent it to me. I wanted to get the hell out of there. Drove all the way home, and I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, I just lost 2 jobs in 24 hours. And by the way, my wife and I had just bought a house, our first house in Portsmouth the previous month. So I went home, and now I'm really devastated now. Like I lost, the day job that pays all the bills and the mortgage, and I lost, the job that like made my heart soar like an eagle. Like it was so cool. And now I got to find a job. I got to pay some bills and do something. Next morning, I wake up and I wanted to leverage. I'm a columnist for ESPN.com. You need to hire me. I went after every national media outlet, Fox News, Sports Illustrated, Sporting News, everybody. No bites. We're not hiring. I then took it down a step. I went regional. Hey, you need to hire me as a sports columnist, blah, blah. Within 2 days, I knew I wasn't even getting a job writing for the local paper. And that's when I said, I'm a copywriter by trade. I need to get a copywriting job. And so I was looking around, and there was nothing in the market. This is the economy in like 2003. And the job market was horrible, and I was really struggling. And I was trying to network, and there were no copywriting leads, but there was an ad agency that I really liked in Newburyport, where I used to live, named Aloft Group. And I had made inroads with their creative director a few years ago, and they were never hiring, because he was like, when I can hire a copywriter, it's you. That never happened. So I reached out to him like, dude, anything. He said, well, we are actually hiring a public relations manager, and I can get you an interview with the president of the agency and the director of PR if you're interested. So I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, oh, cool, a job that I have no idea how to do. I'll take the interview. So I took the interview, and I went up to Aloft Group a few days later, and I met with Matt and Tracy, and they were amazing people. They were really, really bright. We totally hit it off. There was all this energy, and we're talking like, oh yeah, I used to do this, used to do that, we're doing this, we're all on the same page. It was awesome. But there was kind of the elephant in the room. I have no idea how to do this job. Like there's no doubt I have no idea how to do it. So I tried to cover it up. I used stuff like, you got to understand, I am a self-starter, highly adaptable, hit the ground running, which is all just BS code for, I need you to put me on your payroll so I could learn how to do this job while I get paid. And they were bright people, so they weren't having that. And so the meeting ended, and the whole takeaway was, Gino, we think you're really great and a good guy, but you have no experience how to successfully pitch the media about a story. So I drove back home to Portsmouth, and I was bummed out, and I started thinking about it. I'm like, they're right. But you know what? I have a good story. I was let go from 2 jobs in 24 hours. Maybe there's a human interest story there. It's a tough economy. Maybe people around here would like to hear more about that. A normal job working at a credit union, kind of ooh, that's an interesting job. You write for ESPN. Maybe someone would be interested in that. So I got home, and I sent an email to the managing editor of the Portsmouth Herald, and I pitched him my idea. I said, I got a human interest story for you, and I'll be your guinea pig, and it'll help you sell papers. I said, this is my name. I lost 2 jobs in 24 hours. I just bought a house in Portsmouth. I really want to stay here. We love it here. We want to make this our home. I can't stay unless I get a job. And I think a lot of people are in my situation, and it's tough times economically and with the job market. I said, on top of that, for a photo opportunity, I said, this is what I'm willing to do. I'll go full-blown suit. I'll go down into Market Square, right in downtown Portsmouth, and I'll wear a sandwich board that says, we'll work to stay in Portsmouth. You send a photographer, I'll be there. A couple hours later, he wrote back, and he just wrote, Mr. Bona, you have been given lemons, and you are making lemonade. Let's do it. And sure enough, they held me to that photo op. And they interviewed me for like a week, and it was going back and forth. I'm like, wow, this might be a really big story. A couple weeks later, the Sunday paper comes out, Portsmouth Herald. I wake up real early because I was told it would be in that paper. It's sitting on my doorstep, like a movie. I run downstairs, I open up the door. It is the entire front page above the fold with me like this. And the title says, Help Wanted. Portsmouth man loses 2 jobs in 24 days. It was 3,000 words long. It was like the entire newspaper. And I was kind of like, whoa, that's pretty cool, I think. So I did it. So now I'm like, all right, I got it. Now the master plan is this. I bought 2 manila envelopes, the size that could fit a newspaper. 6 a.m. the next day on Monday, I drove back down to a loft group before anyone was there. And I addressed the 2 people I met with, Matt, Tracy, and I put a newspaper in each and a little note for when they arrived at work. And they each had the same note in there. And when they got there at work in the morning, they opened it up and it said, hey, just thought you'd like to know, I think I figured out how to successfully pitch a story to the media. I got a job the next week. And it was awesome. I loved it. I learned a ton. It was a boutique agency, and there was really like senior level people there. I was the youngest one, and there was a PR director, so I couldn't move up there. There wasn't a lot of room to move up. People were really set, and we used freelancers and stuff. But one thing I did learn about while I was there, or was exposed to, that I really, really liked, was business development. I loved the chase of trying to find new clients. And so I sat down with the president and owner of the agency, Matt, and I told him, I said, I really, really like this stuff interests me, and I think I'd be good at it. Can I do this at this agency? And he looked at me, he goes, I love your initiative. I think that's great. You do know, Gino, that that's what I do here. So that was a little bit of a buzzkill. But I wanted to explore to see if that opportunity was out there, if I could do business development. So I started to kind of look for another job. I want to see, hey, is anyone in New England, northern New England, ad agencies, are they looking for a business development director? Because I'd like that job. And again, this is a job I've never done. So I'm looking around, and I came across an agency that's headquartered in Portland, and they just opened up a satellite office in Portsmouth right down the street from my house. And their name was Garand. And I knew all about Garand. Garand was awesome. I knew about Brenda Garand. And I was like, this could be good. How can I make a splash? How can I convince this woman to give me a job that I don't know how to do? So, of course, I turned to Papa Gino's. Now, I am not from New England. I'm from upstate New York. And I remember when I went to college, there were a lot of people from Boston. And, I'm this, 5'8", 130-pound kid at the time. And everyone from Boston's like, yo, Papa Gino. I'm like, what, am I old and fat? What are you talking about? I didn't know what Papa Gino's was. So I then found out there's 200 Papa Gino's pizza restaurants, and everyone grows up with Papa Gino's, and they love it. So I'm like, I'm leveraging this. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to deliver a pizza. I'm going to get a Papa Gino's box, and I'm going to get a pizza in it, and I'm going to slap a manila envelope on top, and it's going to be free. I'm going to already pay for it, and I'm going to get a delivery person to do it. And I'm going to put Brenda Garand's name on it, and inside is going to be a dummy press release, total mock, saying that I, Gino Bona, I am the owner and founder of Papa Gino's. I am willing to throw away my entire pizza empire to be the business development director at Garand. It had fake quotes. There was a quote from my Italian grandmother about how disappointed she was in me. And then I also put in there my resume at the end. So now I needed to deliver the pizza. And so I called up my best friend in Portsmouth, Matthew. I'm like, dude, you do me a favor? Sure, what? I don't know, can I borrow, the lawnmower, I need you to deliver a pizza. And I explained the whole thing, and he just totally was like, all right, cool. So we're on. So we're going to make this, we're going to deliver this to the Portsmouth satellite office. And so Matthew looked like a pizza delivery guy. He played the part. He was into it. He got the pizza, everything. He went to the office, and amazingly, as I found out in hindsight, Brenda was almost never there. She was there, and she answered the door. And so I remember I told Matt, I'm like, your job is to get in, and as soon as they touch that pizza, get the hell out, because it just gets weird. You're giving me food, I didn't order, who do I pay, do I tip you? I'm like, go, go, go. And Matt did an awesome job, so he did, he's like, boom, see ya. And he delivered the pizza, and now Brenda's standing there with the pizza in her hands, and some dude who says he owns Papa Gino's, but there's no way he really does, and he wants to work here. Long story short, I got a phone call from Brenda. She loved it. And what's great about the pizza thing is that it's like this weirdo litmus test, right? I would, again, my wife's like, you're kind of creeping people out if you do that. And my whole thing was, hey, we're doing this dance. Like, this is the kind of guy I am, and the people that dig this, someone out there is going to like this. If they like it, I kind of want to party with them. Like, we're the same mind. So Brenda and I have met and at several occasions and with other people from her senior staff, and I ended up getting the job of Director of Business Development at Garand, and it was awesome. I spent about my first year there, traveled all over the country. In fact, one of the first things Brenda wanted me to do was deliver pizzas all over the country to ad agency consultants. I did the Papa Gino stick on behalf of Garand in New York, Chicago, Atlanta, Miami, Los Angeles, Cleveland, Raleigh. I spent 3 weeks on the road traveling with custom pizza boxes and like mapping out where I could get a pizza, put it in the box that's 14 and a half inches. I mean, it was a science, but I did it. And we had a great time, and I really liked it. And actually, at this moment, I'd like to say one thing. Matthew, my dear friend and the pizza delivery guy, is here. He's sitting here. And Matt, can you stand up, please? Because this is... So this is what we call, this is like about 7 or 8 years too late, but this is payback here. So I'm going to promote Matt. He's a content strategist, and for all your content strategy needs, Matt hooked me up. So right back at you. Grass-fed content. Go there. So I'm at Garand, and I'm almost done. I'm at Garand, and I'm sitting at home with my 1-year-old daughter, and I'm watching my beloved Buffalo Bills get crushed on a Sunday afternoon on the TV. And a commercial came on that would ultimately impact my life. It was a commercial by the NFL, and the National Football League was saying, they were announcing, we're having a contest. We're doing an American Idol-style audition. We want a fan somewhere in the world to pitch us the best idea for a Super Bowl commercial ever. And we're going to be at stadiums around the country, and you're going to wait in line for several hours, and you got 90 seconds to pitch us. I'm like, I'm there. I'm like, do you have any idea who you just broadcast that to? Within 10 minutes, I had my idea, and it was this whole montage of like all these fans and how depressed they are the minute the Super Bowl's over because there's no more football for 6 months, and then we actually like have to do normal stuff on Sundays. And I had this concept, and I went to Garand the next day, and I told my good friend and colleague, Kurt Squires, who was the creative director at Garand. I'm like, did you hear about the commercial, about the contest? He didn't know. I told him about it. He's like, you gonna do it? Told him my concept. And he was like, that's really good. And he's like getting all creative director on me, and he's like, maybe if you pitched it this way or did that way, and I'm listening more and more to Kurt, and I'm like, dude, come with me. Let's go. Let's pitch it together. Because I had a segment in there where there was singing. And I'm like, I'll be the idiot in the background singing. Like, it'll be like this Naked Gun kind of thing. And you'll be the straight man standing there. And you do the actual pitch. And at the very least, we'll entertain him. He's like, I'm in. So we practiced it for about a week, and then we bought plane tickets, and we flew to New Jersey to Giants Stadium. We're standing in line for hours with thousands of people getting ready to pitch the NFL. And then as we get up real close, they asked us our names because we pre-registered. And I told them, like, yeah, it's the two of us pitching. And they're like, only one person's allowed. And we're standing there, I'm like, uh-oh. Are you sure? And they're like, oh, you can go in with two, but you're not allowed to, you won't win. You'll be disqualified. So Kurt was like, dude, just do it. Go in. Do the whole thing. You got it. It's your idea. You can do it. I'm like, okay, yeah, little problem. I've never done it before. We've been practicing it all week, and you do it. I'm in the background going like this. He's like, you got it. You're so money. You can do it. So Kurt stepped out of line, and it was my turn, and I was up, and I walked into this room, and it was like American Idol. There were 3 judges at a table and a shot clock that's staring at me right now, and I had 90 seconds. And they had a film crew there, and they wanted to know your name, where do you live, and what's your favorite team. I told them all that, and they just said, and go. And this is what I did.
It's called It's so hard to say goodbye. Ideally, it would be the first commercial viewers see at the end of the game. Set up, you got 5 guys sitting on the couch from the vantage point of the television, and you hear Rich Eisen say, "And that'll do it for Super Bowl 41. One of the guys sadly clicks the off button on the remote, and that's when the music comes in. How do I say goodbye? Then you see a slow-mo montage as that music's going through the whole pitch. And the first one is a word number 1 foam hand being put up back in the closet. And then next is the San Francisco 49ers chair, the inflatable kind, with the air being let out. After that, you got a bald guy, a Patriots fan, head to toe, in the shower with his face paint, slowly, sadly, washing it all off. After that, you have a bartender, and he slides over a season-long tab, and it's for $6,000. And you see the faces of the guys, and they're like, "Oh, no, my gosh." And the last one you see is a man and his dog, a Great Dane, huge animal, up on his hands, on his shoulders, as he slowly takes off the dog's Chicago Bears dog jersey. Last scene, you see the toughest man in NFL history on the couch, watching TV, and he's sobbing. And his wife yells from the other room, "Honey, are you crying?" Screen goes to black, NFL logo, and the tag says, "It's hard for us too."
So there it was. Those were my 90 seconds. I'm like, I nailed it. This is the part where you give me, like, you're going to Hollywood, dog. You get the ticket, like on American Idol. And what did they say? "Thank you. Next." And that was it. And I'm like walking out. I'm like, well, what happens now? And the woman's like escorting me. "If they like you, they'll call you. If they like you, they'll call you." I'm almost done. A month later, I get a phone call, and I get a phone call from the NFL, and they said, "Congratulations, you're one of 12 national finalists for the NFL Super Bowl contest. Online voting starts in 1 hour. We're going to have fans voting. Ultimately, we're going to decide, you need to sign all these waivers, blah, 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 blah." And I'm like, this is amazing. But it wasn't even the best news that morning, because when they called me, I was in the hospital, and my wife just gave birth to our son an hour before. So I'm like, "Can I call you back? I'm in the middle of calling the grandparents." And actually, his name's Quentin, and I keep telling my wife, I had no idea it would be this way, so his initials are QB. And it's just like, I'm sticking to that story. Anyway, they do all this voting, all these press junkets. 3 weeks later, I get a phone call, "You're the winner." They bring me out to LA. I spent the next month away from Garand, and it was awesome. I made a commercial. It aired during the Super Bowl. I interviewed with Katie Couric one-on-one. We watched the game with her in her suite. My wife is still talking about it. The Katie part, not the game. And as I came home from Miami, I realized I was able to have a chance to reflect. I'm like, it's been a wild 5 years. I'm like, and there's one constant denominator in all of it. It's after I had that accident, I just said, to hell with fear and rejection. I don't care. I'm going to put myself out there. I am going to achieve nothing if I don't give it a shot. I can take it. I'm just not going to fear rejection anymore. And it helped. And that was the first part. And I'm not going to lie. I didn't get lucky. I worked hard. I did a lot of hard work with my column, with the pizza delivery, with all the stunts, with the NFL. That was the 90 most important seconds of my career. So what I want to just end with to all of you is, I implore you, get rid of fear and rejection. It's okay. We're big boys and girls. Do that, work hard, dream big, and you're going to like the ride. Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you. That's what this is all about. Good stories that you can find inspiration in. And he's funny. Oh my gosh. Good, funny stuff.